Let's dive into a tale as old as time, one that's been shaking the sands of history for centuries. The showdown between Israel and Hamas isn't just a local quarrel anymore, as we can see its negative impact on other countries too, where some countries like USA, Canada, India, and other countries that are supporting Israel, there are many countries that support Hamas, including many Muslim and some non-Muslim countries too. It's almost a situation of World War III, having two sides. There had been many wars among them since 2000, but the issue never resolved. What is the issue, and when did this conflict rose? Well, it started centuries and centuries ago. Today, we are going to discuss the actual root of this cause, with timeline of incidents. Roots and early inhabitants. The conflict between Israel and Hamas traces back to ancient times, with the region of Palestine being home to various peoples like Canaanites, Israelites, and others. Over the centuries, it has been ruled by empires like the Assyrians, Babylonians, and Romans, shaping its culture and history. This complex past contributes to the ongoing conflict today, as both sides claim historical ties to the land and seek to assert their rights. Ottoman rule and British mandate. The conflict between Israel and Hamas was significantly influenced by Ottoman rule and the subsequent British mandate over Palestine. From the 16th century until World War I, Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire. Under Ottoman rule, the region experienced relative stability but also faced economic and social challenges. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire after World War I led to Palestine coming under British control as a League of Nations mandate. The British promised both Arabs and Jews self-determination, creating conflicting expectations and tensions. The Zionist movement. In the late 1800s, some Jews faced discrimination in Europe, so they wanted a place they could call home. They looked to Palestine, their ancient land, for safety. The idea was called Zionism, and it grew with a book called The Jewish State. More Jews moved to Palestine in the early 1900s. They called it Aliyah. But this made Arabs worried they'd lose their land. The Zionist movement and Jewish immigration played a crucial role in shaping the demographic and political landscape of Palestine, laying the groundwork for the later Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration, issued on November 2nd, 1917, by British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour, was a significant milestone in the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It said Britain supported making a home for Jewish people in Palestine, but it also promised to protect the rights of the people already living there who weren't Jewish. Britain did this for a few reasons. They wanted help from Jewish people in World War I, and some British leaders liked the idea of a Jewish homeland for religious reasons. But Arabs in Palestine and other nearby countries didn't like it. They felt it ignored their rights and dreams for their own country. This declaration started a lot of arguments and fights between Jews and Arabs in Palestine, shaping the conflicts we still see today. Arab Revolt. The Arab Revolt of 1936 to 1939 was a significant uprising against British colonial rule and Zionist immigration in Palestine. Fueled by a combination of grievances, including land dispossession, economic hardship, and political marginalization, the revolt aimed to resist Jewish immigration and land acquisitions. Led by various Palestinian nationalist leaders, including Haj Amin al-Husseini and the Arab Higher Committee, the revolt saw widespread protests, strikes, and acts of sabotage against British authorities and Jewish settlers. The Arab population demanded an end to Jewish immigration and land sales to Jews, as well as the establishment of an independent Arab state in Palestine. In response, the British authorities cracked down on the revolt, imposing martial law and deploying military forces to suppress Arab nationalist organizations. Despite the Arab revolt's failure to achieve its goals, it laid the groundwork for future Palestinian resistance against British colonialism and Zionist aspirations, shaping the trajectory of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. UN Partition Plan of 1947. The United Nations Partition Plan for Palestine, proposed in 1947, was a significant attempt to address the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and pave the way for the establishment of separate Jewish and Arab states in Palestine. The plan recommended the division of Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem designated as a corpus separatum under international administration. While Jewish leaders accepted the partition plan as a step towards statehood, Arab leaders rejected it, arguing that it unjustly favored the Jewish population and violated the rights of the Arab majority. Despite these objections, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the partition plan on November 29, 1947, with Resolution 181. The UN partition plan set the stage for the Arab-Israeli War of 1948. Israeli War of Independence, 1948 Arab-Israeli War. The Israeli War of Independence, also known as the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, erupted after the declaration of the State of Israel on May 14, 1948. Arab armies from neighboring countries, including Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq, invaded to prevent the establishment of a Jewish state. Despite being outnumbered, Israeli forces, comprising the Haganah and other militias, secured significant victories. The war ended with armistice agreements, resulting in territorial gains for Israel. This conflict marked a turning point, shaping the region's geopolitical landscape and setting the stage for ongoing tensions and negotiations. Palestinian Nakba. The Palestinian Nakba, meaning catastrophe in Arabic, refers to the mass displacement and dispossession of Palestinian Arabs during and following the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, also known as the Israeli War of Independence. As a result of the war, hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs fled or were expelled from their homes, seeking refuge in neighboring Arab countries or becoming internally displaced within Palestine. The Nakba led to a humanitarian crisis, with Palestinian refugees facing poverty, homelessness, and statelessness. Many Palestinians continue to live in refugee camps to this day, awaiting a resolution to their plight. The Nakba remains a deeply significant event in Palestinian history and collective memory, symbolizing the loss of land, livelihoods, and identity for generations of Palestinians, and serving as a rallying cry for the Palestinian cause for self-determination and the right of return. Suez Crisis. In 1956, there was a big problem called the Suez Crisis. Egypt's president, Gamal Abdel Nasser, decided to take control of the Suez Canal, which was important for ships to pass through. This upset Britain and France because they had interests there. So, Israel, France, and Britain joined forces and attacked Egypt. But other big countries like the United States and the Soviet Union said, "Stop." They pressured them to stop fighting and go back. This crisis showed that European countries were losing their power in the Middle East. This does not have anything to do with Hamas directly, but it has indirect connection, as Israel got power to fight anyone and had led to several other wars too. The Six-Day War. In 1967, there was a big war called the Six-Day War. Israel fought against some Arab countries like Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. The tension had been building up, especially between Israel and Egypt. Egypt had blocked a waterway called the Straits of Tiran and kicked out UN peacekeepers from a place called Sinai. Israel decided to attack first. They hit Egyptian air bases and destroyed a lot of their planes. The war only lasted 6 days, but Israel won big time. They took over a bunch of land, including the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, with East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. This war changed everything in the Middle East. Israel now had control over territories where many Palestinian Arabs lived. It also led to more Israeli settlements being built in these areas, which caused ongoing fights with the Palestinians and upset other countries around the world. The Yom Kippur War, also known as the October War, was a brief but significant conflict that took place in 1973 between Israel and a coalition of Arab states led by Egypt and Syria. It began on October 6th, which was Yom Kippur, the holiest day in Judaism, and caught Israel off guard. Despite initial setbacks, Israel managed to repel the Arab advance and even made significant territorial gains. First Intifada. The First Palestinian Intifada erupted in Gaza in December 1987 after 4 Palestinians were killed when an Israeli truck collided with 2 vans carrying Palestinian workers. The uprising drew international attention, but despite its resilience, it didn't achieve its goal of ending occupation. However, it set the stage for future negotiations and shaped Palestinian resistance strategies. Oslo Accords. In 1993, something important happened called the Oslo Accords. It was a big deal for Israel and Palestine. They talked about peace secretly in Norway, helped by Norwegian and American people. The Accords said they would make a temporary government for Palestinians called the Palestinian Authority. Israel agreed to gradually give back some land in the West Bank and Gaza to Palestinians. A big part of the Oslo Accords was Israel pulling its military out of Palestinian areas. The Oslo Accords didn't say exactly what kind of government the Palestinians would have or what land they'd get. They also didn't say where the borders would be. They hoped this would lead to both sides recognizing each other and eventually making a lasting peace deal. But things didn't go smoothly. There was still fighting, disagreements about where Israelis could build homes and what should happen with Jerusalem. Plus, they didn't figure out important things like creating a real Palestinian country or letting Palestinian refugees return to their homes. But the conflict never resolved, and it is still going on. Israel attacked Hamas again and again, and same with the Hamas, as they were also retaliating and attacking. Well, what is the solution to this? We don't know, or maybe we all know, but no one is dare to speak up.